You just stabbed me 10 minutes ago. Don't fucking touch me, man. Get the fuck off me. What the fuck's your problem, man?
Step over here to the front of the car.
What the hell's your problem? I told you I have it in my trunk.
Hands behind your back. I'm gonna take him over here. Over the car. Get us another unit here.
All because I don't have a license plate.
Hey, relax. What's going on, man?
You just stabbed me. I took the plate off. You sent me home, and then you stabbed me 10 minutes later.
I haven't checked yet.
Now you fucking hurt my arm. All for a license plate. I hope you're happy. I'll sue your ass.
Something's off, right? Now we need to backtrack and say, okay, wait a minute before I approach this vehicle, what's going on? So he goes straight to his trunk. What are you guys thinking?
Grab a gun. Grab something.
He's grabbing a gun. You guys both go to gun, which is perfectly reasonable, right? Because now he pulls out a firearm. You guys are already up and ready to go. Right? Okay.
All right, guys. 4 firearm safety rules. Treat every gun as though they are
Loaded at all times.
okay. Never point the gun.
Destroy.
Or shoot. Finger.
Target ready to fire.
Okay. And what's our last one?
Identify. Isolation.
What's right, left, beyond, backdrop, all that.
Get out of the way! Get out of the road! Get out of the road! Get out of the road! Get out of the way! Move!
Go down. Take a knee.
Get out of the way! Get out of the road! Get out of the road!
All right, when the light comes on, you're going to turn around and address any threats presented. Stand by. Good, excellent. Holster up, gentlemen. Holster up. Follow me. Come with me, please. Right this way.
They'll still be focused on him. We'll move him off to the side. And it's common that guys don't ever see him. And he represents another person. You know, it's common they don't see Superman.
And I'll flip a slide over, and it's a still picture of this, and they go, whoa. And I've had them like challenge me and say, I want to go back over and see that wall because none of that crap was there when it is here.
Because I'm saving my own life right now, and everything else around here just goes away for that amount of time.
And the brain does that. The brain is not going to ignore that to look at this.
If you get into a wreck, the first thing, you know, you're looking down, you look back up, all the traffic stopped, and you know you're going to rear end somebody. You'll zoom right in on that license plate or that car, and everything slows down, and the only thing you see is that car. All the periphery is gone, and that's just it's a physiological function that we do. To all your blood rushes to what it needs. It comes out of your extremities, and it goes right into the middle of your body, so that you keep your heart rate and your lungs and your brain working. So you lose fine motor function. It goes to gross motor skills only. All those different things happen. So essentially what we do is I've got 8 guys who work for me, and throughout the year what they're doing is they're doing research all year on trends that is either getting officers hurt or killed or getting departments sued for whatever actions we take as police officers. And so after they research those things, we create scenarios throughout the year that are designed to try to inoculate our officers from, for example, ambushes, because that's been a big thing. You know, in the last few years, our cops across the nation are getting ambushed, or police are maybe making mistakes with their decisions and use of force, and then departments are paying millions of dollars sometimes from civil lawsuits. And so if we teach case law, and we can teach how to slow things down, and the buzzword de-escalation, which I call it a buzzword, but it's you know, it's true. That's what we need to start doing, and what we have been doing.
And then we've actually built a scenario this year where we can say, you know what, instead of just doing a simple building clearing, we're going to run them through an active shooter. So we can kind of change things up throughout the year because it'll still hit our goals and objectives throughout the year.
All right, we got 2 bathrooms, women's and a men's.
You just stay right from that.
First door is on the right hand side. All right, we're going to have breach up, and then we're going to roll in. Tim, you want to come in and breach up?
Yeah.
Okay.
Ready?
It's this door here. Go.
I got you.
You're up, man.
Turn away. Put your hands straight up in the air. You got 413 in his waistband.
Nice and easy.
Get down on your knees.
What did I do?
We'll explain later. You work here?
No?
All right, go down to your knees. Go down to your knees.
Fuck.
Got any weapons on you?
I ain't got shit, dude.
Got a firearm?
That ain't mine, dude. I just fucking found that shit, dude.
As you're coming into the room, think about it. And as you're coming in, you're basically eye washing all this, right? So this is going to be your most unknown in that case. So then go this way.
You want them to have a safe career. And the thing is, if you can back up and give that person that room, or just talk, or tactically reset. What we tell guys is, back in the day, it's like, if I took this ground from you, I didn't give it back to you. And we're trying to tell people, like, it's okay. We have more time. We can set up, let's call more people, let's get more resources. Back up, back up, back up.
Moving, moving.
Central Arms,
You guys did what you're supposed to. You come up, you start checking the car, right? You're no. Who are my first two? All right. You guys get here. You recognize car doors open. Nobody's here. You guys are on gun. Start checking things, right? And then right off the bat, I think one of you guys noticed the downed officer down at the end, right? So you guys want to make your approach safe. You cleared the vehicles real quick, and then you guys start making your way down there. And you can see it has a major emphasis on the suspect's actions. And what's our ultimate goal? It's de-escalation. All right. The suspect dictates what level of force the officer will provide. This is every officer's worst nightmare, for the suspect to get here, all right, to this level of aggression, to where, heaven help us, we would have to engage in deadly force. Everything that we're focusing on as an organization is to avert that ultimate act. Now, we talked about the three-pronged test. Originally, Graham versus Connor, case law established in 1989. All right, these were the three prongs that a lot of agencies, just like Metro, they'll focus on this. Severity of crime at issue, whether the suspect poses an immediate threat to the safety of officers or others, whether the subject is actively resisting arrest or attempting to evade arrest by flight. Here are the additional 5 prongs that LVMPD mandates our officers articulate if those circumstances are applicable. In some instances, they'll end up in a deadly force situation, and when I give them the briefing, the first question I ask them, I go, how does it feel if you were to be prosecuted, criminally prosecuted, because you're going to be a subject officer because you forced that suspect to act the way he did. Now, there may be a point to where the suspect is going to engage in attack. All right? Now, just because he's coming, then no person is going to come at me like this, fist balled up, because maybe I'm not establishing any verbal communication. Maybe I'm not taking control. That can also convey a sign, you know, that's a signal for the suspect or the role player to attack. Now, does that justify using deadly force? Absolutely not. All right, so what we're looking for is for them to create that distance, go to a less than lethal option, all right, and do everything in their power to use the least amount of force necessary to control that situation.
News and politics. Don't teach kids how to survive police encounters, train cops to de-escalate. It's on the police to do better. Lincoln Anthony Blades JUL 12, 2017 5:51 p.m. EDT. Do Better is an op-ed column by writer Lincoln Anthony Blades, debunking fallacies regarding the politics of race, culture, and society, because if we all knew better, we'd do better. In America, 523 people have been shot and killed by police so far this year, according to the Washington Post's database. That's just under 3 people per day, or 1 every 8 hours and 48 minutes, which means by the time you read this, that number will most likely be outdated. A report by The Guardian in 2015 found that police officers in the United States shoot and kill more civilians in a few days than some nations do over a span of years. Last year, Wesley Lowery of the Washington Post reported that unarmed black Americans were 5 times likelier to be shot by a police officer than white Americans. A study by the Treatment Advocacy Center, a nonprofit organization, revealed that people with a mental illness are 16 times more likely to be killed by a police officer during an encounter than other civilians. These are statistics well reported and examined in the years since Michael Brown was killed in Ferguson, Missouri. The effectiveness of police is an issue on the minds of many Americans, one tackled in this column before. Yet, a recent Gallup poll found that some American citizens have gained confidence in police during this time, particularly white people and conservatives. Trust among nearly all other groups declined. What's more is that politicians and law enforcement agencies have taken victim blaming to a new level, suggesting and, in some states, requiring that children undergo interaction trainings with the forces who are hired to bravely protect them and to equitably serve them, yet fail to do both. In New Jersey's General Assembly, the A1114 bill passed in June of this year, requiring school districts to provide instruction on interacting with law enforcement in a manner marked by mutual cooperation and respect, to students in grades K through 12, and earned a 76-0 vote in the lower house of state legislature. The bill's primary sponsor, New Jersey Assemblywoman Sheila Oliver, said it isn't intended to blame police encounters gone wrong on children, but rather to prepare them for real-world interactions with officers. She told NBC News, the number of police-related shootings around the nation have created a mistrust of police in many communities. This can help rebuild the trust that is essential for law enforcement to work. Community cannot instill trust into law enforcement when it has been harmed by them. Rebuilding trust can't happen if it's never been established. The history of Black Americans is one rife with constant incursion from cops, from slave patrols, to violent mistreatment when they demonstrate their civil rights, to serving as the agents of mass incarceration. Police have constantly been a force of terror for minorities in the U.S. The idea that respectful interactions with the police professionals whose training includes de-escalation tactics are wholly dependent on the courteous behavior of civilians is transparently false in an age where smartphones show us images of cops beating, terrorizing, and killing suspects with little to no regard on a frequent basis. We shouldn't adopt bills to teach young kids how to survive police encounters. We should train police not to kill civilians. We should train them to value life, especially the lives of Black children, who, according to a 2014 ProPublica analysis, are far more at risk of being shot by the police than white kids. De-escalation training for police isn't uniform and varies from state to state, and more specifically, from department to department. Across the board, it's lacking, as shown in a recent analysis by CNN. Some states, like Florida, require interior designers to have more training hours than their police there. A licensed interior decorator, at minimum, requires almost 1,000 more training hours than a police officer. In California, a licensed cosmetologist requires 1,600 hours of training, while a police officer requires at least 664 hours. In Michigan, a licensed electrical sign specialist requires 4,000 hours of training, while a police officer requires a minimum of 594 hours. In 34 states around the U.S., where the entirety of the training process is left to local agencies to formulate and conduct, little to no de-escalation training is being conducted. A 2015 survey by the Police Executive Research Forum, a group working to establish a de-escalation training model that could be used by the over 18,000 departments nationwide, found that among 280 law enforcement agencies, new recruits received a median of 58 hours of firearm training and only 8 on de-escalation training. Some chiefs and sheriffs who haven't implemented any training believe that it's either a fad, or a disrespectful reproach of traditional policing. More so, the report also revealed that many officers receive little to no training on how to apply crisis intervention techniques for civilians dealing with mental illnesses. Even if officers were receiving wholly adequate training, that wouldn't address the problem of who departments actually accept as new recruits. Donald Grady, too, a retired police chief, told The Atlantic that he believes that police departments are problematically prioritizing recruits with aggressive personalities who may not have the soft skills necessary to even develop de-escalation skills. To make matters worse, there is no nationwide requirement for departments to conduct psychological evaluations to develop understanding of their new recruits' mental state. And, on top of all that, the pool of new recruits often lacks much needed diversity, which is constricted by the fact that Black and brown people are so over-policed that even those eager to become cops have criminal records that disqualify them from being hired, as former NYPD Commissioner William Bratton told The Guardian in 2015. And when cops do kill, there's no substantive mechanism in place to ensure they face some measure of punishment. This will always undercut public trust, especially in minority neighborhoods that studies have shown are policed completely differently than white communities. Of the New Jersey bill that calls for children to undergo respectfulness training, Assemblywoman Oliver said, "This is a lesson many parents already teach to their children." What Oliver was referring to is what black families call the talk, the moment where parents plainly lay out to their children how to behave when approached by police in order to survive the encounter unscathed. The talk is an age-old reality used by black parents to warn their children of the great risks they'll face based on the assumptions an officer might make about them because of their race. This discussion is a staple in black households because informing kids on how to navigate the prejudice, irrationality, and systemic ineffectiveness of policing as a whole is seen as a critically important survival tactic. The talk is predicated on teaching children that even a minor brush with the police is a life or death scenario that demands that we act accordingly, emotionally, verbally, and physically. Therein lies the problem with Oliver attempting to use the talk as grounds for an effective new law. The talk isn't about coaching a child on social graces and niceties, it's a plea from a systematically battered people to their children, begging them to acquiesce to the relinquishing of their rights just so they can make it home alive. That shouldn't act as the premise of policy, it should be the onset of meaningful reform. After a police officer killed 15-year-old Jordan Edwards, an unarmed black male who was killed by police in a car in the Dallas suburb of Balch Springs, members of Texas's Legislative Black Caucus began aggressively pushing bills very similar to New Jersey's A1114. While lending focus on increased training for law enforcement officials, they were also steeped in the same troubling premise of instilling respect for police into civilians. Houston Representative Sinfrenia Thompson introduced House Bill 1864, which demands that information relating to law enforcement procedures for traffic stops be included in the curriculum of each driver education course and driving safety course by civilians, also establishes a police training program about the proper procedures during a traffic stop, and information about appropriate use of force. Dallas Senator Royce West introduced Senate Bill 30, requiring information relating to law enforcement procedures for traffic stops be included in the curriculum of each driver education course and driving safety course, while forcing officers to complete a civilian interaction training program which would cover topics such as the role of law enforcement, and proper behavior for civilians and police officers during interactions. Yet, even Senator West himself admitted that he wasn't sure if these bills would have saved Edwards's life, stating, "I don't know how my bill would have impacted that situation. The truth is, none of us know." More intensive police training may reduce officer-involved shootings, but it needs to be approached as a public safety issue, as opposed to being framed through a false equivalency that agents of the state and children are both equally responsible for the use of force. In addition to policy, infantilizing programs like the NYPD's NYC Together seem like they aim to fix the disrespect out of children, while simultaneously adopting policies and practices that appear to repress people through over-policing. Left writing hand medium dark skin tone emoji modifier at left sent this. Since 2005, there have only been 13 cops convicted of murder or manslaughter in fatal on-duty shootings. Hashtag Philando Castile. 5:54 p.m., June 16, 2017. 4646 retweets, 5454 likes. Twitter adds info and privacy. If we are serious about preventing another Tamir Rice, or another Charlena Lyles, or another Dewan Guillory, we need effective law enforcement reform, not programs that push blame on civilians. Once politicians and law enforcement officials agree to take a deeper look at the stringent obstacles preventing effective policing on their own end, we can collectively save more from the memorialization of a cryptic hashtag.
Hey Charlotte County, this is Charlotte County Cop Watch, and I wanted to explain what fair use is. You can use pieces of news articles if you're doing it for news reporting, you have commentary, and you're doing it for education purposes. So that's what fair use is, as you can see right here. Another reason why I wanted to make this video is to let you know I have just joined with Patreon. A nice thing with Patreon, I make no money on YouTube. They took the money away years ago. And so this is another way to give, and it's a nice thing too because you can give monthly. You can give $1, $5, $10, whatever. I do 4 to 5 hours a day on trying to wake the sheeple up on how corrupt it is and different ways that you can fight the corruption. So Patreon is a way that you can do it, and then of course the old way is still there. Donate to Sheriff County Cop Watch with PayPal or credit card. So keep that in mind. 4 to 5 hours a day. I make no money, but the corruption happened to me and I'm sick of it, so I'm trying to wake people up. But my wife would love it if some, if we could get some help out there. There's 47,000 subscribers. Just think if each one of you subscribers just gave a, let's say, actually, yes, $1 a month. 47,000 subscribers gave $1 a month. That would be awesome. That's not going to happen. But anyways, that would be great if it did happen. But, do the math in your head. Just think about it. Like I said, 4 to 5 hours a day. I get no money from YouTube. YouTube has gone nuts. You can't do anything anymore. They're taking the money away everywhere. So these are a couple different ways that you can still help out with all this time that I put in. And as you know, I'm in a special situation where, at least I can do it, 4 to 5 hours a day. We have a cleaning company during the day. That's what allows me to do this, and we're debt-free. So this is my hobby. I don't go fishing and all that other crap. I try to save the world. So help me out to make the wife happy, man. In fact, if you guys did give $1 a day, and there was 47,000 of you, and you did it, and each of you gave $1, and that was every month, oh my God, yes, I could quit. I could start suing them. Another idea too that we have is, if I got, some funds, we could actually contact everyone that has been ticketed and or arrested and put in jail and start sending them postcards to let them know we're here, and to see if everything went all right, and if it didn't, find out their story. So we could even do more investigations and more lawsuits. Lawsuits take money. So just think about that. 47,000 of you so far right now. $1 a day. $1 a month on Patreon, or $5 a month Patreon, 10, 20, whatever. Just do the math in your head. Help out. This is a lot of work every single day. Thanks.